everyone, Jennifer Rossi here for Mothers Against Drunk Driving. We are starting a new video series with some of the professionals that we work with in the field. Today, I would like to welcome one of them to answer some questions that a lot of you have asked. Please welcome John Parese. If you could tell us a little bit about yourself and where you work and how long you've been in the business.
Sure. Hi. So my name is John Parese. I work with the law firm of Buckley, Wynne Parese. We are a small law firm, boutique law firm here in New Haven. We represent clients throughout all parts of Connecticut. We have offices in Stamford and Hartford. And the primary, client base or clientele that we represent are people that have been injured, often as a result of someone else's carelessness or negligence. It could be in the context of a motor vehicle crash. That's the predominant volume of work that we do. It could be in the context of a malpractice, legal or medical, or it could be in other forms. Someone fell down, for example, on a dangerous condition. That's essentially what we do and who we represent.
Wonderful. And how long have you yourself been practicing as an attorney? Were you always a civil attorney, or did you do any other type of law?
When I graduated from law school in 2002, I worked for the court system as a clerk, and that was a great. That was a one-year clerkship position. And it was a great opportunity for me to see the other side, if you will. And then my first 4 or 5 years out, I worked in a general practice firm doing everything from criminal to civil to divorce to real estate. I did a little bit of everything. And over time, I found the injury cases and the litigation, the trial work, I found that the most interesting. And for some people, it's more taxing than it's worth it. I've come on the side of it's worth it because I just find it interesting. And then when I was in law school, I worked with John Buckley and John Wynne, and I developed a nice relationship with them. And then when I was thinking about making a change, I reached out to them, and they said, "Well, we might be looking to do something here." So, and I've been there now for. I can't even keep track of it all. I think I've been practicing almost 20 years now, longer than you'd think. And I think I've been about 17 years with Buckley, Wynne Parese. 15, 16 years with Buckley. Well, it was Buckley, Wynne, and now it's Buckley, Wynne Parese. Got
your name added on. Yeah. That's great. And I know we at MAD have worked with you guys for many, many years. Not just with helping families out, but certainly other things with events and stuff. We do obviously a lot of fundraising here, with our Walk Like Mad program, with our golf tournament. So I know you guys have been kind of involved in all different aspects of MAD throughout the years. Too.
Oh yeah, it's been a nice relationship on our part as well.
Great. So now impaired driving, obviously, this is what we do here at MAD. Might not be an easy question, but how many cases do you think you have, or even in law firm, like how many cases do you think you have worked with throughout the years for just impaired driving?
I would say from my firm's perspective, it's hundreds. And from mine, it's, I got to imagine, I haven't done the numbers. I don't track it that way, but it's got to be well over 50 personally. And I would say, it's one of these things where I don't know if you've ever talked to someone and they're looking for blinds at their home, for example. And as soon as they start looking at blinds, all of a sudden now everywhere they go, they're looking at other people's blinds, right? And you never would have noticed blinds before. That's an experience that happens to me at least. But in the context of impaired driving, because of what we do, I see so much of it, much more than I would ever have imagined exists in society, given what we know today. about, for example, the efficacy of seat belts, and just, look how far we've come as a society to now all cars have seat belts. Everyone puts them on without even thinking about it. Impaired driving has come a long way, and I credit MAD to that, to take us away from that idea of drinking and driving being a socially acceptable thing. But it still happens a lot, as you know. And we see a lot of it, and we see the repercussions of that and the injuries and the lives that are affected by it. So there's always more work to be done in this regard. But I got to tell you, I don't know. I feel like I'm getting off a topic, because I would spiral down a chain of both distracted driving as well as impaired driving, and both of them are really dangerous for a lot of people. And it's something we all need to be aware of. And thank God for the good work that MAD's been doing. And I think about that in the context of, I drive around with my kids. Is your seatbelt on? Are you it's always in my mind, because I deal with motor vehicle crashes, that I see how many lives have been affected by it.
Right. And I mean, there's many cases, that we have been advocating for, that, not only is the other driver, impaired in some way, but, there's also cell phone use, or even time of day. That sort of varies, back when many people used to think between midnight and 3 a.m. when the bars got out is the only time that these kinds of crashes could occur. But, as we've gone out through the years and the different studies and statistics, it is any time of day, no matter what kind of background you have, no matter who you are, it's a crime that doesn't discriminate and is certainly 100% preventable nowadays with Uber and Lyft and all of those.
Yeah, I mean, I've gotten tied in with a group. It's called End Distracted Driving, and this attorney, I can't even remember what state he's from, Illinois or something. He lost his daughter to distracted driving, and he created a PowerPoint presentation, and he has trial lawyers from across the country delivering these PowerPoint presentations to high school age people. And it's to both compel them to understand the dangers of distracted driving, but also their parents. And, distracted driving and impaired driving are really very similar in the same idea of taking it very seriously when you get behind the wheel of the car, that's got to be your focus, and getting from point A to point B safely. And I think what happens is, we get in the routine of driving our cars without incident, and then you get complacent in really not realizing how dangerous, how strong, how powerful those vehicles are, and the failure to be careful, how much harm that could cause. And impaired driving, in my opinion, is the worst of all of them, because that's a decision. It is a decision to get behind the wheel of a car once you're impaired. And thanks to the good work of people like you and your colleagues at MAD, you can't make the argument any longer that I wasn't aware of how dangerous this was, or I wasn't aware of the consequences that might follow, because it's well known and well documented. So that is undoubtedly, it's come a long way in that regard. But people always need to be reminded, like anything else. And the same thing with the impaired driving. As you mentioned earlier, it doesn't discriminate. So you may have, for example, like I think about in the context of if I'm jogging, right? And I'm always trying to look at the eyes of the person of the vehicle coming toward me, because how many times is it like this? And it just takes a second till you hit a runner. And when you're impaired, it's just as dangerous, if not worse, for pedestrians on the road. And like you said, a lot of times the drinking occurs at evening hours, not always. And I've had any number of cases where there's been really horrific intoxicated driving that occurs in the morning hours or midday hours. I think the best mechanism right now for protecting the motoring public is exactly what you're doing as an organization, which is making people aware, reminding them, obviously advocating for legislation, but that's always a difficult thing to do. But I think just making people aware, reminding them, because just keeping that, it's almost like, I don't think guilting them is the right word, but I think there's a lot of good people who will make different decisions, maybe are less concerned about their own safety, more concerned about others, and just conceptually thinking about, well, I could probably do this, but I can stomach the risk to myself, but I don't know that I could stomach the risk to somebody else. And I think making that message clearer to everybody, I think it's invaluable. So I really respect and appreciate, and on behalf of myself and my partners, the work of MAD to keep doing that.
Thank you. I mean, we certainly try every day, and even in the times right now, we're still trying to find creative new ways to really still engage the public and our constituents, and keep the reminders, even if we aren't having in-person programs and events still, that we are still here, we're still able to help, and we still want to put the awareness out to everyone, that just because, and even DOT and NHTSA do their campaigns with buzz driving as well. It's still the same no matter what amount of alcohol in your system. Your reaction time is slower, and you're not paying attention, especially with the phones and everything. That something you may think you might be just minor, that you'll get home maybe a few blocks away, but it's not the case all the time. So we do what we can, and no matter what, we're still there for the victims. Speaking of the victims, I know we got off on a little tangent, but just quickly, what if there was a crash to occur and someone was looking to proceed civilly? What are some important things that either they might need to know, or maybe important factors regarding a civil case?
That's a good question. So let's assume there's been a crash, and you are the injured party. One of the first things, obviously, get whatever medical attention you need, cooperate in the investigation. Sometimes what happens is insurance, I represent individuals, so we are going against insurance companies who indemnify people that caused crashes. Because that's what I see all the time, I've become somewhat jaded by the practice and that insurance companies pursue. But it's often a process of how do we minimize the amount of risk and the amount we have to pay people as a result of a crash. So one of the first things they may want to do, for example, is take a recorded interview, because they know well that a lot of people's injuries don't tend to materialize for sometimes days or weeks after a crash. I see that all the time. And so if they can get somebody on record very quickly in a recorded statement to say, well, basically the only thing hurting me right now is my sternum, because that's what happened to get crashed the most. And then it turns out a couple of weeks later, a month later, their neck is hurting them into their shoulder, and maybe the sternum resolves, but the neck becomes the big issue. I said, well, we took your recorded interview a few days after the accident. You didn't mention anything about a neck problem. So I would say don't give a recorded interview to the insurance company. I like to get, especially depending on the extent of the crash, the sooner that you can speak to an attorney, the better. Because what I like to do with my clients, depending on what the nature of the crash is there could be a dispute about who was at fault. That happens all the time, even in cases where the other side maybe says at the scene, I'm sorry. Then they turn around and say, no, it wasn't my fault. They went through the red light, right? So that type of thing happens more often than I'd like. So what information could we obtain from a liability perspective to protect our clients? Is there witness statements we want to get right away, photographs right away? Maybe there was surveillance, obviously medical information and so forth. So I like to say to communicate with an attorney sooner than later. I also kind of feel like the law has become, we're not allowed to use the word specialized. I won't use that word, but there are lawyers who focus their practice primarily on real estate closings, for example, or who focus their practice primarily on doing wills and estate planning. If you've been involved in a serious car crash, I would rather see somebody hiring a law firm that focuses their practice on personal injury, car crashes, things like that. You know, if you need a will done, go to the guy who does wills. If you need your closing done, go to the guy who does your closings. That's kind of really just a good advice in general. That's the nature of law practice in this time. So if you communicate with an attorney, you can trust that whoever you're speaking with is going to be on your side. Their only job and focus is to protect you, and you can rely on that person to do the type of legwork I just mentioned, the investigative stuff and so forth, to protect your interest. And then really, as I tell my clients, once I get involved, your really primary focus is on getting better. You know, go to the doctor, do what you got to do to get physically better, and then utilize your legal team to help you kind of address the questions and prepare the case to protect your interest down the road. There is a well-worn process in place as to how these cases get litigated and how they get prepared. And it's important to create a stable base of information and evidence to protect into the future. And so that's something that a lawyer would do. So I would say, in terms of basic advice, you know, obviously, if you're at the scene, you want to do what you need to do to get better, cooperate with the police. And then secondly, communicate with an attorney to make sure you get your interests protected, and don't give any recorded interviews to anyone. You don't have any duty to do that.
All great things. I know we, you know, sometimes we'll get questions, you know, from families when they're not really sure if they want to pursue anything, you know, additional or not, in besides just the criminal court case. And, you know, I'm like, it's always better to call and ask a question and then make your decision than to just say no, or just, you know. So we do get questions a lot. You know, we do refer to your agency. We refer to others, you know, because it's important. You know, it's important for the whole process. You know, the criminal court process is a whole nother, it's a whole nother
Right.
ball game. You know, and then with the civil and, you know, different things that a family may need to go through. It's confusing. It's overwhelming sometimes, especially if there's been a trauma. You know, whether you're injured and you have serious injuries and are trying to heal, whether you've had a loved one killed, you know, it's an overwhelming process all around
Right.
for all of the systems, you know. So having attorneys like yourself, you know, the court advocates, us as advocates, you know, and medical, you know, it's very important, you know, that everyone kind of works together, and, you know, you're focusing on your grief or healing, you know, than having to worry about everything going on that sometimes may be out of your control. So we do, you know, we do try to refer. I don't really know the whole civil process myself. I don't want to learn it. I know enough with the criminal court. So, you know, every time there's a question, I'm like, nope, I'm going to refer you to someone so that they can answer your question, because I would be guessing half the time. So that's certainly good advice.
One of the things I would point out to that point, I think is important for people to know, is that to call a lawyer who does what we do, bodily injury work, there should never be any fees associated with that. So, for example, at our firm, all clients have free consultation. You know, we will always spend time, as much time as necessary, explaining the process and addressing any preemptive issues. And then also, with the vast majority of, unless I feel like there's evidence that's going to really need immediate attention, or important interest could be lost by not acting immediately, we have a really a policy at my firm, if you will, to not pressure people. You know, it's not like you call, you got to sign right. You know, I often tell people, think about it, think about what you want to do. Here's our paperwork, review it. All of the cases that we take our firm are on a contingency fee basis, meaning we can only get paid if we recover for someone. And certainly there's no cost for a consultation. So, and I believe, you know, most of my colleagues who do this type of work in this field do it the same way.
Okay, great. That, you know, that's certainly helpful, you know, for anyone that may be watching, you know, or wanting to know, because I've gotten that question as well. I'm like, I don't, usually the consultations are no charge, but you have to call and ask, because I'm not quite quite positive, but that's kind of the consensus that I have heard from different law firms is that, someone can certainly call and ask questions and then, obviously make their decision, which is helpful to someone, especially at the beginning stage when they don't really know what's going on and have a lot going on in their life. So that's certainly a great help to families. I think I may be out of questions.
I wasn't sure how long we were supposed to go. I feel like many things, like many conversations I've been involved in, it's been way longer than it should have been.
No, that's how we wanted to make sure that we had a lot of information, which we did get from you. Certainly grateful for that. We're just trying to something new at MAD. Everyone kind of asks us questions for different professions, and so I'm like, hey, why don't we do a video series,
Sure.
and ask these questions? We've been working with an intern on a lot of these questions, so thanks to him, we're just trying something different, and hopefully if anyone though has questions that is watching, you can certainly feel free to reach out to us here at the office, which is 203-764-2566. Or go on to our website, which is mad.org/CT, and reach out to us. We can certainly give you John and the law firm's information to contact. I believe we might also have it on our website. If not, we will put it on our website as well. And I thank you, John, very much for joining me today. Any parting words for us?
No, I appreciate the time to answer your questions. Certainly, anyone that needs to reach me, you can Google search us, or we have a webpage, and any information you might need could be there. And again, I just would say on behalf of my partners and my kids, frankly, I'm grateful for the good work that MAD has done for all these years. We are a proud partner with MAD in this fight to protect the motoring public. And I thank you for asking me these thoughtful questions, and I wish you well. And hopefully we can see each other in person soon once this quarantine window is over.
Yes. Thank you so much, John.